Hi film fans, I'm Danielle, we are We Talk Film, and this is the October edition of Most Wanted Movies. And man, oh man, is it a good one. Not one, not two, but three of my all-time favourite filmmakers all have big films coming out this month. So let's get into it.
Their cruelty to my people is all I've known.
Transformed the series of travelogue columns into the French Dispatch.
First up, releasing on the 21st of October, it's the grandfather of all modern sci-fi, a new adaptation of Frank Herbert's 1965 novel, Dune. This one is directed by French-Canadian uber genius Denis Villeneuve, and has a stacked cast including Timothée Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa and Zendaya. Dune is an epic tale set in a future universe where planets are controlled as part of a vast empire by noble families. Duke Leto of the House Atreides is put in charge of the desert planet Arrakis, where he must contend with attacks from the rival House Harkonnen, uprisings from the hostile local population, and terrifying appetite of the sandworms who eat anyone who goes into the desert. Arrakis is the only source of a substance called spice, which gives people mind-bending powers. And when the Duke's son Paul comes to Arrakis, he is set on a path that will change the future of the whole universe. Dune tackles huge themes including religion, colonialism and environmentalism, whilst throwing in spaceships, futuristic tech and mystical powers. I'm a huge fan of the original books, and they were a huge influence on pretty much all modern sci-fi and an inspiration behind Star Wars, so audiences today are sure to appreciate the world building and the detail behind it. There's been several attempts at adapting Dune before, but none of them have been particularly good. I am, however, hopeful that this will be the one. Director Denis Villeneuve hasn't just never made a bad film, he's never made a film that wasn't genuinely brilliant. Incendies, Prisoners, Sicario all knocked it out of the park. He himself is a massive fan of the Dune books and said he didn't want to try and make it before he had experience making sci-fi. So he went away and he made Arrival and then Blade Runner 2049, two of the greatest sci-fi films of the 21st century. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. That's Dune, it's out on the 21st of October and it's worth watching on a big screen. Next up, and only a day later on the 22nd of October, a new film from the most distinctive director working today, it's Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch. Now, given that I'm currently sitting underneath a poster of Steve Zissou, you can probably predict that Wes is my favourite director. This is his 10th film, following on from the likes of Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic, Moonrise Kingdom and The Grand Budapest Hotel. We can expect another slice of zany colour from the king of kitsch, with a few emotional punches lurking beneath the surface. The French Dispatch is an anthology film telling the story of a group of journalists in a small French town who are scrabbling to find stories for their latest edition. The film is split into three parts and covers stories about student revolutionaries, an incarcerated artist and a bungled kidnapping. The cast for this one is too big to get into, but Anderson OGs Bill Murray, Owen Wilson and Jason Schwartzman are all returning. Tilda Swinton and Frances McDormand have bigger roles in this one, and you've got debut appearances from Benicio del Toro, Jeffrey Wright and Timothée Chalamet. Early reactions from film festival screenings have all been good and promise another charming piece of escapism. That's The French Dispatch, out on the 22nd of October. And finally, and just sneaking into October, we have Last Night in Soho, out on the 29th. Last Night in Soho is the latest film from Edgar Wright, whose previous films of course include Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver. It's safe to say we can expect another killer soundtrack, some cleverly stylised action, and a few lovingly done homages to Wright's most favourite genre films. Last Night in Soho stars Thomasin McKenzie from Jojo Rabbit as Eloise, a young fashion student who's just moved to London. When she goes to sleep at night, Eloise starts to have recurring dreams or possibly visions where she wakes up in 1960s London in the body of glamorous nightclub singer Sandy, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who you'll have seen in The Queen's Gambit. Now, the trailer doesn't give much away about the mind-bending plot, but what starts as a good experience clearly starts to get dark and twisted as things go on. Last Night in Soho appears to pull more towards the thriller-cum-horror genre rather than Wright's more usual comedies, and it looks genuinely scary. Surely worth a go for original and inventive entertainment, Last Night in Soho is out on the 29th of October. Now a very quick run through for the best of the rest of October. The 8th of October, one for the kids, you've got The Addams Family 2, continuing the newly animated adventures of everyone's favourite dysfunctional family. On the 15th of October, get your comic book fix, you've got Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. The first one was universally panned by critics, but did find a cult audience eventually, so I'm sure there's plenty who want to see more of the Tom Hardy symbiote romance. Also on the 15th of October, we've got The Last Duel. That's directed by Ridley Scott and written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. It's their first film they've written together since Good Will Hunting. It stars Damon alongside Adam Driver and Jodie Comer. It's a story set in medieval France when a knight's wife accuses the knight's squire of assaulting her. The two men go into combat in a deadly duel. And also on the 22nd of October, we've got Dear Evan Hansen. This is a musical with the same songwriters, Pasek and Paul, who wrote The Greatest Showman. It is Tony winner Ben Platt reprising his Broadway role as a socially awkward high school teenager whose lies get out of hand. I have seen the West End stage version and I loved it, but I'm a little bit more cautious seeing as this has been getting slayed in early screenings. But we'll give it a go anyway. So, my top picks for this month, and I will be watching all of them, I promise you. Dune, The French Dispatch, Last Night in Soho. Check them out, let us know what you think, and come join us on We Talk Film.